I have to say, this Alec Baldwin shooting thing, for whatever reason, it really fascinates me, but the story just keeps coming at us with more twists and turns. Here, we're going to take a look at a video from an exclusive interview that Alec Baldwin gave with George Stephanopoulos, which will air tomorrow, and I will do an analysis after the video. We're going to watch some clips from it. Alec Baldwin exclusive. The trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Joe the Lawyer. I'm your host, Joe Pometto, a practicing Pittsburgh family law, criminal defense, and injury attorney. If you like my content, please support the show by liking, subscribing, and sharing these videos. Really, sharing the video is probably the best thing you can do. Send it, post it on social media, send it in messages with friends and family who would find this interesting. Now, before we watch this video, raise your cups, your glass in the air. It tastes better when we sip together. One of my new guilty pleasures here, this Coca-Cola, zero sugar, though it's the same as Coke Zero, right? There's no difference. I've always liked Coke Zero. Cheers with me, because a drink, no matter what the beverage it is, it tastes better when you sip it together with someone else. Cheers. Now let's watch this short clip of the Alec Baldwin exclusive interview, and I'm going to do a quick analysis.
She was someone who was loved by everyone who worked with and liked by everyone who worked with and admired. I mean, even now, I find it hard to believe that. It just doesn't seem real to me.
You haven't said much in public since that tragic accident. Why speak out now? I think the big question, and the one you must have asked yourself 1,000 times, how could this have happened? You described it as a 1 in a trillion shot, and the gun was in your hand. How do you come to terms with that? It wasn't in the script for the trigger to be pulled.
Well, the trigger wasn't pulled. I didn't pull the trigger.
So you never pulled the trigger?
No. I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them, never.
What did you think happened? How did a real bullet get on that set?
I have no idea. Someone put a live bullet in a gun, a bullet that wasn't even supposed to be on the property.
How do you respond to actors like George Clooney who say that every time they were handed a gun, they checked it themselves? Your emotions are so clearly so right there on the surface. You felt shock. You felt anger. You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt? You said you're not a victim, but is this the worst thing that's ever happened to you?
Yes. Yeah. Because I think back, and I think of what could I have done.
Alec Baldwin, Unscripted, the newsmaking special event, tomorrow night at 8/7 Central on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Well, here's the thing. I can tell you what you should have done or what you could have done differently, Alec, and we don't have the whole interview. We'll get into that later. You could have checked the gun. Now, George Clooney says that he checks every weapon before he fires it. Bravo. Because that's what somebody on a movie set should do. It shouldn't, honestly, it shouldn't. If you're going to be the one pulling the trigger of a real gun, it is firearms 101 that you know whether that gun is loaded or not. And listen, I'm not a huge firearms guy, okay? Do I know how to shoot a gun? Yes. Was I in the Air Force? And those of you in the Army and in the Marines, you go through a lot more training on shooting, okay? I was an F-15 aircraft mechanic. I learned to shoot in basic training. I actually did some security forces where I went through some additional training later on as a security forces augmentee for about 4 months. Where I was taught a little more training with a firearm, but I'm not a huge gun guy. I know how to shoot a gun. I would never pull the trigger on a weapon without knowing whether or not it's loaded. Now he says that he didn't pull the trigger. Like, mind blown. He didn't pull the trigger. So what is the chance? What are the odds? Perhaps someone can drop this in here. What are the odds of someone not pulling the trigger and a firearm going off. Not pulling trigger and firearm goes off. I mean, accidental discharge. What are the odds? What are the chances of an accidental discharge? Generally speaking, this is Science website. If your gun is kept in good condition, was made in the past decade, and isn't used frequently enough for wear and tear to compromise the safety mechanisms in place, there is almost no chance of the gun going off if you drop it. This is just wild. He said he didn't pull the trigger. Maybe he's convinced himself that he didn't pull the trigger, because you can have false memories, or you can change your memories, okay? People can even change their own memories by believing what they want to believe. So maybe that's what happened here with Mr. Baldwin. I don't know, and I will say that I'm still open-minded because I want to hear the rest of the interview. I think it's clear, though, that he should have checked the trigger before he fired it. It seems almost ludicrous that he says that he didn't pull the trigger. And number 3, this is going to be an interesting interview. I'd like to hear the rest of it. You know, another question that George put forward, and I like George Stephanopoulos. You know, I have my issues with mainstream media generally, but I think he does a pretty good job when he interviews. And he said, how did a bullet get onto this set? How did a real live bullet get onto this set? Such a tragedy here. The district attorney is still investigating. They probably won't bring charges against Baldwin, though personally, I think if you fired a gun like that, that perhaps you should face charges, because it could be criminal in and of itself by not checking if a weapon was open. Let me tell you a story before I go here about a case that I saw a trial for. An individual, now he owned the gun illegally, but an individual had, actually I believe it was a Tech 9, okay? And he was sitting on the second floor of his house with the Tech 9, and his cousin was down the hallway in the other room. And I kid you not, he was just fudging around with the gun, and I can't remember what he said, if he actually pulled the trigger or if he said he didn't pull the trigger. Okay, but the guy, he's holding the gun, boom, the gun goes off, shoots his cousin, kills him. Now, what hurt him was immediately after he shot his cousin, he fled the scene. And that led police and the district attorney to believe that he did it on purpose. But really, he ended up testifying. He said he fled the scene because he was scared. And I think he had like some other criminal cases out there, didn't want to go directly to jail, etc. He was charged with third-degree murder, and he was found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. So the facts here could support a charge like that against Mr. Baldwin. Here's the thing. If the DA brings a charge like that against Mr. Baldwin, it could change the whole movie industry. But perhaps it would change the movie industry for the better. Because let's be honest, of course they want to pursue realism and use real guns, but they don't need to use real guns. It's not going to take away from the movie. All right, when I watch John Wick, I'm not looking so close to see whether, the Glock or the 45 that he's holding, if that's a real gun or not. Okay? You don't need to be that real, Hollywood. We know it's fake. We know it's fake. So, this is going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what the district attorney will do. I did originally predict that new charges would come out. I'm not so sure that that's the case anymore. It looks like she won't bring charges against Mr. Baldwin. I hope, and there's already been lawsuits against Mr. Baldwin and everybody involved, I hope they bring charges against someone in this case. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Joe Pometto, Joe the Lawyer. If you like my content, please like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you for tuning in. I will continue to follow this story when we can see the whole interview and any other evidence that comes forward. Please give me a like, subscribe, and a share. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.